Hi, everyone. It's Jackie Van Workum. Welcome to Hope After the Landslide. And we're always trying to adjust our screen here. But welcome. I know that yesterday was Easter Sunday, and I hope, actually 2 days ago, I hope that you guys had a great Easter. We are just recovering from my son's wedding, Marcai's brother-in-law, that we just had over the weekend. And then, of course, what happens is the next day is Easter Sunday. And so we're kind of casual. Look, and this is like, the grandkids are around, and Marcai's got her hat on, and I told her she looks like a golfer. But I want to, when we're talking, I think about her and I and our relationship, which we don't even have time to go into that so much. And maybe some of you have seen us on the video that we did when I was in Nashville with her. And it was just like this, very random, last minute. I know that with her and I, when we first met, that obviously God knew what was going to happen to us and the trauma that we were going to experience. And so I think what has happened is we have learned how to laugh and be silly. And that actually is something people sometimes will do in order to create those hormones in our body. And like oxytocin is the love hormone, and the endorphins the endorphins are a calming hormone. And when you laugh, you release some of that. And so we do a lot of laughing. And in fact, right before we were going on, we were doing a lot of laughing. She decided to bake chocolate chip cookies, like healthy ones. And by the way, she's an amazing, I don't even know what do I call you? What kind of a cook? Like a vegan, like everything's healthy.
Holistic.
And so, by the way, this is my beautiful daughter-in-law, Marcai, and most of you know the stories to what she's been through and what we have shared and the struggles we have encountered. And I don't know how Marcai is going to weave that in. We're allowing the Holy Spirit to bring that in because, of course, it's really, really a long story. I want to reach out and say hi to Mary and Kathy and Sue and Jeannie. Thanks, you guys, for being here. The other Marys here. We've got two Marys that are faithful and dedicated viewers. So we're just going to talk about what we just experienced, which was the wedding. And if you can only imagine, just first of all, Marcai coming back, because they now live out of state. So her coming back with the boys, because my now new daughter-in-law, Chelsea, has asked her to be in the wedding. So now she's going to be surrounded by all of the people and all of the friends and actually just the environment, the geographical surroundings as to, where, Randy was born and the people, and she grew up here. So a lot of emotions. And then at the wedding, of course, if you can only imagine what she experienced. But I'm not going to steal what is that the Spirit wants her to say. I'm going to allow her to just touch on whatever it is that touches her, because I don't even really know exactly what she was experiencing through the wedding, except that I was praying for her the whole time. And I always just grab her and we just look at each other and there's love. And there's love, and I say, do you know how much I love you? And she goes, I do. And I've always got her back because it's heart-wrenching.
There was four or five of the same groomsmen that were in Ryan and Chelsea's wedding that were in mine and Randy's wedding. So it was very deja vu, I guess. And, being around Mitch especially, Mitch is such a
Mitch is our youngest boy.
Very similar to Randy. So looking at Mitch from the back of the head, the side profile, or hearing his voice, it's like you almost do a double take, like you think it's Randy. But, I had to fully rely on the Holy Spirit that day and prayer warriors, really asking close friends and loved ones to pray, because it was really emotional up until the actual wedding and, holding it together. But, I had to just stay focused on what we're celebrating. And it was about Ryan and Chelsea and being grateful that they have this amazing love and that all of us came together and to celebrate them. And that's what it was about. But you can't help the inevitable, which is Randy's not there. And seeing, Jack and Noah and,
we can turn it off and on.
Yeah.
You can all of a sudden just allow yourself, and you ladies know that, you can all of a sudden allow yourself to just let that grief in, let those triggers like get to you, and of course that's normal. Or you can say, like Marcai said, like, this is Ryan and Chelsea's wedding. We knew what we were going to expect when, Marcai said, yes, I will be in the wedding, which was a very courageous thing to do, by the way. Or you can just not. And I tried the entire ceremony because I'm looking at Marcai, I'm looking at Ryan, I'm looking at Larry, I'm looking at my grandsons, I'm looking at, because, I'm mom, and I'm like trying to think like, oh my gosh, please God, watch over her. And there was a couple of moments I did see you up there, and I wanted to just run up there. Oh, and then not to mention Grayson, our tiniest little grandson, is supposed to be the ring bearer. And he's supposed to come down, and my job was to try to make sure he brought the ring up in the little case and stuff, and then we had to change plans on that. So there was just a lot of like people that, that I love so dearly, and I wanted so badly to protect them, and I know that I can't do that.
And it's so apparent though that that's like your mama bear coming out, making sure everyone's happy and taken care of and loved, and almost like a rescuing aspect, but you see it in your face and in your body language and sometimes with your words, but you do a really good job holding back and letting God do the work. And I love that. Yeah. That's gotten like a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause in the beginning, it's like, well, in the beginning of like this whole thing happening, there's just no words, right? There's no words for that. And as you guys may remember or may not, with the story, and I apologize, we were praying before, and we just like, do we go into the whole story? And if you wanted, you can go on. I tell the story on a bunch of videos, and I guess the recap is just, of course, Marcai was married to our oldest son, and through a chain of events, he basically broke down and lost hope. And I don't know, there's so many other ways we could describe it, but bullet point wise, he actually tried to take his family to heaven, and thankfully was not successful because Marcai did yell Jesus' name in the middle of that. He used a weapon, which was a knife, that could have very easily ended. I mean, they're miraculous. They are my living miracles. And then he went out on the interstate and rolled the car, got out, and cars on the other side took him out, and so it was suicide. So he was in a very dark place. Like I said, because he lost hope, and we won't get into the details, but just to bring you up to speed. And so that this woman is sitting next to me, she moved in with us and the boys, and we're grieving in completely two different places. And we talked about this in the other video. Mm-hmm. And, there were moments where I'm sure she probably hated me. I never hated you, just by the way.
Yeah, no, that was the wrong word. That's a bad one.
That's kind of a heavy word, yeah. But nonetheless, there was something that
disagreement, maybe.
Yeah, different views and ways to handle. But at the end of the day, neither one of us knew what we were doing.
No, we kind of still don't.
We still see, we still don't. And it's like people are saying, "How in the world can we be laughing like this?" Because we have sat down and we have cried hard. I usually cry harder, and she does a better job at that. But at some point, we cry hard, and then we can be silly. And that is, like I said in the very beginning, that is our go-to when we don't want to have to let that in because it's just too much. But we together knew there was something from the very beginning when we first met, which was this unconditional love that we have for each other. And Marcai lost her mom in, what year was that? 2007. She and Randy got married in 2008, and then Noah came along right after that. Yeah, so it was like a lot of things, but through that, we just stayed connected, very, very connected, like oddly. And now it's even a more miraculous relationship because we can still be sitting here the second and third time and talk about this. And we know that there's things that maybe she still doesn't agree with and I don't agree with, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, Randy's not here. She has chapter 2 on her license plate. We're trying to rebuild life all over again. And I would never, never want to lose her. And I had never had daughters. And she knows that, because it's very evident I've never had daughters, because I didn't do so well with it at the very beginning. But
yes, you did.
I love her, and she accepts me.
Yes.
And that's what's so great. So, but I want you to kind of talk about in a second. And hi, Sherry. Sherry's saying, Marcai, you're amazing and strong. Blessings. And look at even Larry's on there. My husband heard.
Larry, what's Noah and Jack doing?
He's supposed to be having them out at dinner right now, having gluten-free pizza. And I want to say hi to Darnell. And do you know Darnell?
I do. Hi, Darnell.
Yeah, it's the point again that we do these Hope After the Landslide is obviously to let you know that there's different ways of grieving. Primarily that we can't do this alone. We can't isolate. You know, Marcai, of course, is not going to go to grievingmoms.com, because Marcai's not a grieving mom. Marcai is a grieving wife. And among many, many other things she's grieving, you know, she still has a lot of hurts. But one thing we have in common was we did get connected with our people. Where we need to get connected here on Grieving Moms, it's to get linking arms with other moms that have lost a child. And like Marcai, you could be in a number of groups with all the stuff you've been through.
Yeah, there's actually a widows group at my church. I just noticed on the bulletin. And to be honest, at first I was like, I felt some pride in there, thinking, oh, well, you know, I don't need to go. But definitely going to check it out, because I think two is better than one. And if I could connect with, you know, more people that, you know, have somewhat of a similar story or circumstance, and the better. And more so, like, what if I can help somebody in that group? You know what I mean? It's not just about receiving. You can give back. If I'm not seeking something from them, you know. But
you could go to a single moms group now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's raising, you know, my grandsons or sons, like, by herself, and she could be part of a number of things. But at the end of the day, the number one group that she's part of is the church, the body of Christ that she's involved in, and is very faithful in that and our faith. I also want to say, I didn't say Regina. Regina is on here. Hi, Regina, long time girl. And but yeah, we've been involved in things because, you know, like you said, we still don't know what we're doing, so we rely on the Holy Spirit's guidance to send us to where He feels we need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, just I think going back to what you said, like with you and I at the beginning when we lived with one another, is respecting where we are in our grieving process and how each individual one grieves. I think that's huge. Even when you do go into a support group and somebody says something that you think is absolutely crazy, it's just respecting where that person is, because everybody handles it differently, and it's confusing.
It's very confusing, and it's, you know, I say it all the time, you know, we don't bring scales to the table, and especially in our situation, there's no way that, you know, I and she could ever compare. And hers is so, the catastrophic is not even a good word, because of what she experienced from the attack. And then to come under there, it's like, you know, we couldn't sit there and say, well, you don't know how I feel. I don't know how you feel. Well, no, of course we don't know how one another feels. It's a completely different thing. I know a lot of moms have had experiences with people coming up to them and saying, well, hey, it's been 2 years, you know, are you over this? And it's like, no. And, you know, I recently had somebody say, you know, that the Van Workhams have changed. And it's like, yes, we have changed, and we will never be the same. Mm-hmm. We'll never be the same. Larry and Jackie, Marcai will never be the same. Marcai, there's no way that you could ever be the same, not just because of what has happened, but because just the loss of someone so unexpectedly, so horrifically, you know, all those different things. Were you going to say something? Mm-hmm. I didn't want to steal your thunder from that.
No, you're on a roll.
But but I wanted to talk a minute about what happened. We could talk a little about suppression of grief. And when you're a child, which, you know, Noah and Jack are children, and they're now almost 9 and going to be, well, not almost 7, but 6, and how they have handled this. And there's really no, I mean, you can pray over these little boys and everything, but tell the moms what happened a little bit from what your perspective was at the wedding.
Well, Noah doesn't, Noah is, oh my goodness, I love that boy. He makes me a better person, like for real. But
he's the 8-year-old.
Yes, he's the oldest one. He's amazing. But so he wanted to pray over, the wedding and whatnot. And I think after him hearing Ryan pray, or not pray, but talk, Ryan gave a speech. Ryan gave a speech talking about stuff, and then acknowledged the people that weren't there at the wedding. And I think that's what triggered it for Noah.
He didn't hear Ryan mention his daddy.
And Noah sits down and just sobs. Sits down at the table and cries. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Noah cry that hard. And that was for like 10 minutes? Sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And at the time, he said it's because he misses his dad, and because his dad wasn't there at the wedding. And it just really put things into perspective for me as his mom, thinking, wow, this little boy has bottled up all these feelings and pain and doesn't know how to express it. And when it came out that way, it was really heart-wrenching, but kind of healing at the same time, because it taught me a lot. It helped me have a little bit more compassion and understanding on a little boy's mind and how they operate.
Yeah. In fact, he prior to that, what he was doing was he was sitting on my lap and he was listening to his Uncle Ryan speak, and he said, he kept saying, Noni, he's like, is he going to say something about Daddy? And I said, well, I don't know. And then Ryan was done. He hands the microphone now to his wife, Chelsea, and now she talks, and he goes, he didn't say anything about Daddy. And I said, well, why don't you just go over and maybe you can say something? First he said no, but then all of a sudden when he saw Chelsea was about to finish, he went up to Uncle Ryan and he whispered in his ear, and I don't know what he said, but then he actually took the microphone and this is an 8-year-old, and he's a little more bold. He's definitely not shy. But he took the microphone and he said, if my daddy were here, he would have wanted you to all have a good time, I think he said. Do you remember what else he said? He just started engaging.
Yeah.
He started engaging with everybody. And then he sat down, and then I had heard him say, because he's crying, and I said, what's wrong? And he said, I just miss my daddy. And he was just sobbing, and there wasn't a dry eye. And all the guests that were there wasn't a dry. Grown men, 6'2", 6'3" men were all sobbing at what this little boy did. So it was such a roller coaster of emotions. But this woman right here, honestly, I don't know how that she made it through there, but then again, I do. We all know it's God, the Holy Spirit, and she knew what she was getting herself into. And yet at the same time, she held it together, and she allowed it to be Ryan and Chelsea's day. But this is just one of those things. It's going to be a forever thing in our lives. As it is for you. It's going to be one of those things that everything you do, there's going to be something that's going to have some memory that is going to be coming up, and triggers, and you've got to face them. It's going to be welcome to Shay. I see you out up there. And by the way, really quick, if you want to put on the comments there where you're viewing from, what state that you're viewing from, that would love to see that. Even if you're just local in California, love to see that. And anything that you can relate to, we'd also like to see that. Sherry said respecting where everyone is important. Absolutely. Lost my train of thought because we also talked about our foggy brain.
Oh, yes.
Talked about how many things we've lost.
Yeah. Looking for things when it's right there in front of us. It's one of those things where you open up the refrigerator and you're staring forever for whatever it may be, a gallon of milk, and it's right in front of your face.
Yeah.
You gotta laugh, right?
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, can't find the car at the Spectrum, walking around.
That was just last night.
That was yesterday. Yep. Wandering the Spectrum looking for a vehicle. It was so embarrassing.
And I was there, but with another friend, I was with my sister, and I'm like saying, hey, you guys still at the Spectrum? And she said, yes, we've been looking for the car for the last, Mary's from South Dakota. Hi, Mary, again. She's like, I've been looking for my car for the last 20 minutes. And there's a part of me that wants to go find her and help her find the car. And then there's a side of me that goes, no, she's on her own. She's because I still can't find my Bose headset. It's MIA. It's gone along with a pair of sunglasses. And today we were just talking about it, and I asked her, I said, do you just like forget where stuff is all the time? And then Kathy had reminded us that we still are in that foggy brain stage. Mm-hmm. So ladies, give yourselves grace is the word. Marcai, you also mentioned another G word.
Gratefulness. Yeah. I was on the beach a couple hours ago, and I had so much to be grateful for. And I thought about, talking on this video thing and thinking every one of us has there's so much to be grateful for, and we can choose what we're going to dwell on and think on. And I think the quickest way out of depression or sadness is choosing to write down what you're grateful for, what you have in front of you. I mean, walking on the beach, to walk from inside a home to the sand was my grateful moment. Clothes and food in my stomach was a grateful moment.
And that is very important for her. She's a workout fiend. She's always making something in the kitchen, always, which is a wonderful thing. But yeah, gratefulness. That's spot on. Thank you for saying that. Because yes, if you are in that place, the moment that you start sounding out loud or you start to write it down, what you're grateful for. Even if it's the smallest little thing, looking outside and you're under a roof and you have a roof over your head, because here in the beach communities, there are a lot of people that live down here that don't have a roof. There's a lot of homeless people because San Clemente is the San Clemente's climate has got a great climate, so it makes it a little more user-friendly for them. But you can see them out there on we call it cold here. If you're living in Colorado and South Dakota, don't laugh at us, but it does get cold here in California. And I just think, I go under my bed at night and I put that down comforter on me, and I'm like, I am so thankful for my bed right now, especially after a long day, and especially you as a long day with those little active boys. In fact, we are sitting here and in a pile of Legos. They're building a Lego thing from Lord of the Rings that Noah's been working on, and it's been keeping him busy. He built this whole thing so far, which is so awesome. So ladies, if you are out there, and again, I'm just going to keep saying it, you're going to probably want to do this. You're going to go and flick me off your shoulder, talking about not doing this alone. Mm-hmm. So not okay to do it alone. It's actually frightening. It's very, you leave yourself like a sheep in the meadow, because that is where Satan does his most work.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Michael. Michael was a friend of mine that I went to high school with back in Ohio. And so it's just so important not to be, like I said, you're going to hear me every time, not to be isolated by yourself. There were many times when, Marcai would want to be locking herself up in her room. Well, not locking, but she probably wanted to lock herself up in her room and just to be by herself. And I'd be like, okay, she's been in there for a certain amount of time, and then I would worry about her. Of course you're going to worry about her after, especially what she's been through. And so it's just not safe. It's not smart.
Think about the people in your life that you have heard them say, or even you've gone through this personally, where you were isolating, maybe having a self-pity party. Maybe you were just not at a good place. And then you reached out to get help from someone, or you heard that somebody did that. What happened? Was it negative? I almost will guarantee you it was positive. You always will feel better when you reach out and connect, learn something, or even get your focus off of yourself and onto somebody else.
Yes.
I think that's a big one. We don't want to compare, but if there's many things to just kind of get your focus off of yourself and onto somebody else.
Look outward, not inward.
Exactly.
And there's moments where you have to look inward, and you have to have that self-care, as we also talk about. So, and part of self-care, is getting involved in a group, and definitely there is big, huge landing pad right here at groovymoms.com. We have places for you to land safely where there's no judgment, and there is going to be, nobody's trying to be shoving you along saying, hey, you know, you need to be in another place right now. You've been here too long. Now, there's going to be a healthy way of saying that. You know, I've talked about this as well, to where if you are still sitting there and you're just watching, you know, if you're outside and you're just watching a trail of ants for hours and hours, like, okay, you've got to have somebody get up and grab you and say, we need to get outside. We need to go for a walk. And walking is super important. If you are angry, if you just need to change the scenery or snap you out of that place of like depression that you were talking about, because that is also a very negative hormone. Sherry had just said journaling is helpful. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think journaling is awesome too, because it gives you a time of reflection as well. I've just started dabbling in journaling, and for me, my journaling is literally 2 sentences. Sometimes it's 1 sentence, sometimes it's a word. And I've been given so many journals, and Jacke was always a big promoter of that, and I always felt like it wasn't for me, it wasn't a helpful tool. But I think I'm at a place now where I'm starting to begin that process, and it's a beautiful thing, because I love to look back and see the reflection and see how far I've come or something I've conquered. Another thing too, I think is a good one is to write down your prayers. How cool is that? So then when God answers them, you can cross them off the list.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Because we forget about doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah, I remember in the beginning telling you all the time, like, you know what, it'd be helpful if you journal. And counselors were telling you to journal.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the key that she said was, like, she's at a place now, not earlier. She was not at a place. So don't allow people to say, this is what you should be doing right now. You know, let them make suggestion, but let it feel peacefulness in your heart about when it's time. Because, you know, especially because, like, in our particular situation, I'm saying, again, we bring no skills. There was a lot of extra layers that were involved in this. So at that point, like, if it was just one specific, like, incident, yes, maybe you could sit there and you can journal. But it's not for you, then don't push yourself to do it. But every day when you get up, make yourself try to do something to take a step towards healing every day. And that's why, you know, joining the moms in these groups have been so successful. You know, I've got countless testimonies of that. I didn't put on the top of our, when we did the Facebook Live, because I had said, don't have expectations because we're exhausted after what we've been through in the last couple of days. And she decided to start cooking. What time? At 6:30 when I finally got back from the grocery store. On Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Easter Sunday.
Yes. And it turned out really good.
It was really amazing using a Vitamix, but we don't want to be a Vitamix commercial right now, but she could. She could. But anyway, I did not put, you know, how to get involved in the group, but it's grievingmoms.com. You'll see groups on the top tab. Click that and it'll show exactly how you can do them in your home with other moms, or you can do them online, as we're doing here, conveniently in the comfort of your own home. Like, you probably wonder, like, we're regular street clothes, but how do you know we're not wearing our jammies, our pajama bottoms right now?
Yeah, or even shoes.
Or shoes, or, yeah. But, and all kidding aside, you know what I'm saying. So ladies, you deserve this. You need to be getting yourself involved so that you can start healing. Because, you know, Marcai, you mentioned about having a pity party, and that's the default that we say. But a pity party is sounding like, you know, it's like that we don't deserve to, or it's like a childish way to do it. But at the end of the day, that's because our humanness says that we don't deserve to have some time to self-reflect or to give ourselves grace, I guess, is probably another word, because we, you know.
Worthiness came to my mind.
Yes.
Yes, not feeling. No, because I've gone through it. I've been there, and you are worthy, and you are loved, and you are like incredibly valuable, and you have to realize that and dwell on truth and not your own stuff in your own head. That's typically fears, which are then in turn lies.
Right.
You got to get out of your own headspace.
especially when this happens, you get a lot of anxiety, and the anxiety then creates that spindrift that we talk about in the resurfacing book, that 12-week study that I wrote, that is going to be what you will go through when you're going through a group together. And we talk about the spindrifts because we allow ourselves in that place by ourselves for such a long time. That's when Satan does all his work. And so, yes, you have to break that cycle, and you have to rely on your truth and not Satan's truth, what he's trying to tell you, and staying in the Word. And people have said, well, I don't even feel like reading my Bible. I don't feel like doing a devotion. Let somebody else read it to you. Listen to audio, right? You
press play on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Put a podcast on. There's so many amazing podcasts out there and sermons to listen to. Music, worship music.
Oh, amen to that.
Oh my goodness, that has been my saving grace so many times.
Yeah, sometimes that's all you can do. If you don't want to listen or write, you don't want to read, just let technology help you with that, and be careful with that, obviously. So we're at 6:31 Pacific Standard Time. I want to say hi to Lindsay.
Hey, Lindsay.
And Michelle, two Michelles joined Air and Sudell. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you for sitting and doing this. And I just love God's timing and how he's been allowing us to have this time. It's quiet. Yeah, it's quiet in here right now. And we have time because Larry was voluntold to take the boys to dinner so we could then go to the Spectrum
again
and go shopping. Yeah, we're going Spectrum, but I'm parking, okay? You're not parking. So anyways, again, you guys, grievingmoms.com, join a group. Please join a group. And again, please understand that we're being silly and laughing, but at the end of the day, that's just like how we get through it. And I'm sorry if you're at a place that you just lost a son or a daughter, but we get it. We get it because we also have deep, dark moments that we felt hopeless and just like, why God and all this. But now I actually could get teary-eyed, but I won't. Just say that it's, what do you want us to do with this, God?
Yeah, he won't waste the hurt.
Yeah, he won't waste the hurt. And she's stuck with me. She can keep doing this as much as she wants, but she's stuck with me.
You're kind of fun.
All right. God bless you guys. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next week.